In this video, we're going to be looking at the overview of the front panel on Push 3. I like to look at Push 3 as two different sections. So this top section here, along with this D-pad and this little button here, that I see as a separate part to this. So I'm just going to explain that. So this top part we use to navigate between different areas within the session. So for example, these top four buttons here, this is your sets button where you can create new sets, settings, your tips page, and then your user page or user mode active page. Below that we have an encoder which controls the cue volume, the main output volume, headphone output, and the master volume. To change this, we just push down on the encoder and then we can basically turn the encoder up or down to change this setting. To the right of that, we have an undo button and a save button. These are self-explanatory. Undo is undo your last process. If you want to redo it, you press, I think it's Shift. Yeah, Shift and undo, and then that redoes it. Save button, which saves the whole project. And then below that we have these four buttons here. The first button is lock. The next button is stop clip. Then we've got mute and solo. So if we wanted to mute a track, let's say, we could hold down mute and then press the mute button on the track. And then here we have the solo button. So just press down the solo and then select a track that you wish to solo. Below that we have the tempo and then the swing amount. We can change that by simply going left or right, pushing down, changing the tempo. And then as we move across, we notice that we have these buttons which are here. So we've got 8 buttons on the bottom, 8 buttons on the top. We've got a nice sized LCD screen. And then above that, we have 8 encoders. So the 8 encoders control the macros within the devices. Whereas the buttons navigate you to different areas within the instrument, etc. Or you can change between tracks on this bottom row. Over in the top right, we have these 4 buttons here. This first button gives us the device. So if we have a track that has a sampler on it or an effect on it, we can press that and then the device names will come up here where we can select different ones to manipulate or change. So for example, if we had an auto filter or a filter, it would come up with a cutoff here where we can change that, but that would be on that page. The next button is mix. So on that we can change the volumes of the tracks. We can go to panning, and then if we had return tracks opened up, then it would be return track A, B, C, D, etc. Moving on is the clip view. This is where we can see audio, we can see the MIDI clip. So if we had a selected clip, so if I just click onto this, then go onto that, then I'll just turn that down, the tempo down a bit. We can now see that we have MIDI clips showing within this clip view arrangement. If we go to devices, we can see that we have got different parameters where we can change. So we've got a compressor there where I can select redux, that I can select, or go back to the original sampler, which is a sampler, where we can change these settings. And then the last one is the session view. This is where all our clips are, and this is where we can sort of toggle down and start different clips. So if we've got a lot of clips going on, we can sort of pick and choose which ones we want, thinking, yeah, that's right, and then we'll take that into a new line, so that'll be a section of the song. Below that is this big jog wheel. The jog wheel can go left or right. It pushes in and it also goes right and left. So this is an easy way to navigate from track to track. Or below that, you can use the D-pad, so you can left, right, up, down, and then you can start a track by pressing the button in the middle. To the left of that, we've got a plus sign and I would say the refresh sign, but I think it's the swap sign. So if we click on the plus, that's where we can add devices, add a MIDI track, audio track, return track, or install as packs. Come out of that. If we are on a device, let's say, and we wanted to, so go back to our devices page, I could then press this and then I could swap it out for something else. I'll just come out of that. This button here, this is your master track, this little button. So this is where you can add like EQs and compressors and whatnot. That's to your master track or a limiter, let's say, if you didn't want to peak over 1 dB, minus 1 dB. You can bang that on there if you so wish to choose so. Come out of that. And then that is more or less the top section of Push. The one thing I will say that I would probably put into this top section is the tap tempo. So because this is 85 BPM, if I had something that I wanted to play to like a band, let's say live performance wise, I would tap to the tempo and then I know roughly it's about 110. I could then use my shift and select button to slowly manipulate back to 110, or if I wanted a whole number, just basically just turn the encoder left or right to make whole numbers. Moving on to the bottom area, we see the main thing is these MPE pads, 64 of them, which is beautiful for expressing different ways to express musical instruments that are within inside Push. I'll start off with them because they're the main attraction to this. Nice, beautiful pads. So nice pads, really expressive, really sensitive. You can change the settings of these pads within the settings page. Just click on the settings and then go to sensitivity or expression. We'll get to that in another video. But they're the 64 pads, MPE pads. To the left of that, we have a touch strip, which we can move between different devices. Or if we had an instrument on, we could use that for a mod wheel or a pitch bend. And then moving on further from that, we'll start off at the bottom. We have a play button, a record button, capture button, a new button, an automate button, a fixed length, quantized, and metronome. So metronome is the classic metronome. If we hold it down, we can change parameters within that. So if I wanted to record something, we could basically change the counting. So it would count in for a bar and then start recording. We could change the sound of it. So we've got classic, wood, and click. We can set the rhythm of it to 1 bar, half a bar, basically different rhythms. And record quantization, launch quantization, should I say, along with the time signature. The quantize button is the same. If we hold that down, we can change parameters within it. If we wanted to record quantize, we could basically turn that on and change what we want it to record quantize to. Equally, if we had a MIDI clip going on and we had notes put in there, we could press this and then we could quantize it to a certain percentage along with where we wanted to quantize it to the grid, and then we could add a swing amount to that quantized amount. Fixed length we could set to 1 beat, 1 bar, 2 bar, 4 bar, 8 bars. So that means that after 2 bars, which is on the setting now, it will stop recording. Automate allows us to automate devices. So if I go on to this and I have a filter, let's say, I could automate that whilst it's playing through, and it would automatically do that, the same movement again once it's stopped recorded. The capture, record and play button. The capture is if I've played something and I liked it but I haven't recorded it, I could press that button and it will set up a new MIDI track with that information on. So it's basically always listening to the inputs. Whereas record, if I wanted to record something, whether it be audio or MIDI, I could press that button and play it in. This corresponds to a MIDI track, which corresponds to obviously the fixed length, the quantize. So getting them to how your taste is up to you. And then the play and pause button. Green is that it's playing, and then when it's white, it's not. Same with this. This turns red when it's recording. These buttons here are the scenes and repeat intervals. So we can change, like in with this sequence now, we can go to this grid, and as you'll notice, it's set up to 1/16. So this is 1 bar, and you can see each division is split up into 4. So 4, 12, 8, 4, 12, 4, 8, 12, 16. That's that. So if we did 8, it will just cut it in half, and then if we did 4, it would be a full solid 4. Triplets adds the triplet division to it, whereas an eighth adds the eighth. You'll notice that it doesn't have dotted on here. That's because you can get to dotted notes quite easily. So if I just play this hat sound. So to do a dotted note, it is you play 1 and then you miss 2, play 1, miss 2, play 1, miss 2, play 1, miss 2, play 1, play 1, so forth and so forth. And then that is a dotted note. So if I just play this. So that is 16th dotted, whereas if we wanted an 8th dotted, we click on the 8th note and then we'd do the exact same pattern. And then this would be the 8th note dotted. So it's basically half the time of 16th. Just take all them off. These can also be used in conjunction with this button here. This is the repeat button. So if I click on repeat and I push this down, that's just repeating this sound every 8th note, or every 8th triplet, or every 16th triplet. The only thing you can't do with this repeat is do dotted. You can only do triplets and normal 16th notes. You'll notice that it all lights up as well when this is turned on, and then the highlighted note is turned green of which one is selected. So if we just turn that off, if we move on to this right, we'll start at the bottom. So we have shift and select. So shift and select allow you to do other things with the controllers within Push. So for example, we showed you that BPM over there allows us to do 0.1 decibels. It allows us to do 0.1 BPMs counts. If we had, oh no, it can't do it on that. It should do it on that though, to be fair. So with this as well, what you can do is you can change the colours of a pad. It's not doing it now, so I don't know if that's a glitch or not. But basically, if we go onto this and I hold shift and that, it brings up another menu. So I can change this track to, let's say, blue. And then it changes to blue. If I wanted to change it again to orange, and then it's changed to orange. We can also press on each track and we can group the track, ungroup it, freeze, flatten the whole pattern, or we can rename it. That brings up a keypad where we can use these buttons to delete it. I like to keep the number on, press space, and then just put in what we want. So I'm just going to type in MIDI, then click done, and then that way that's renamed to whatever we want it to be renamed to. So this pad here allows us to go up and down an octave. It also allows us to navigate left and right through the page buttons when they become available. So up and down, for example, so now it's playing from C3 to C7, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then so forth and so forth. So C1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Above that, we have another 4 buttons. We can convert. This is converting audio. We can double the loop, duplicate, and delete. So we can delete things like this track, for example, delete that track. We can press undo. We can duplicate this track to add a new track. We could also, let's say, go into this and go to this view. Just press select. So selecting a track, you press select, and then this takes you to the actual clip without it activating. We can then duplicate this, so we can hold this down. So for example, hold this down, push this, and then we can add that to another clip. So we've got this clip here now, and then we've got it there again. So we'll just stop that. That's them. We've done the repeat, but what I'll do is I'll go back into this. The accent button is basically a button where all the pads are 127 in velocity. So if you're wanting something that is up front, you'd have that button on, and it flashes when it shows you that it's on. When it's off, you've got the velocity that is set within the sampler. Above that, we have the scale and layout. So the scale, if we go over to this MIDI, we can select different scales. We can be chromatic. We can select whatever we want. And the layout as well, we can change the layout. We'll look at that in a different video. And then the full layout of this as well. So we can change the layout between 3 of them. We've got a sequencer, which is a melodic sequencer. We have a melodic sequencer plus 32 notes. So if we want to create chords like that, for example, these chords are selected. I could then put them chords onto a pad, and that will create that for us. But just back to melodic, 64 notes. This is where you can really start to put your chords in and do whatever you want within this. These 2 buttons here switch between the note view, which is this view now, and the session view. So the session view is same as this button here. So as you can see, I've got 3 clips entered in here, and these are denounced by these here. So I'll just show you this again, this touch strip. So we can change it by pressing select and switching between mod wheel and pitch bend. So pitch bend is just between the middle point, it goes up and then down, positive to negative, and then the mod wheel is just a mod wheel, which allows us to modify a certain parameter within an instrument. And that is basically the overview of Push 3. So the connections on the back are as follows. So starting here, we have the power on and off button. To turn it on, we just push it in and then let go, and it turns itself on. To turn it off, we hold it in for about 5 seconds, and then it asks us if you want to save. If you've got the normal stand push, it should just turn itself off. We have a headphone output here, 2 pedals which allow us to connect either pedals into it or CV out of it. Next to that, we have a USB connection that is to control Push 3. Then next to that, we have the DC input. We have the USB 2.0 input. That is so that we can connect different things to it. So for example, if you have a little mini keyboard, you could connect that into the USB 2 port, along with if you have like an OP1 or something, you can connect that in there. Next to that, we have our MIDI in and MIDI out. And then we have our ADAT in and out, along with our inputs 1 and 2 and our outputs 1 and 2. So this holds a audio interface as well, so we can bring audio in directly in, and then we can take it out as well. And that is the overview of Push 3. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.